Next,
The story continues.
the story continues, and now we're going to the sea.
Right, right where they were.
Right where they were. Here we're sitting in wilderness at the sea, and we are now going to look into the Bible, and we're going to see a story.
We have a sea. They had a lake.
They had a lake.
Okay, but from verse 22, I want us to hear the lesson that comes behind it. So when Yeshua looked at the crowds, he saw compassion, right? And the disciples, they got a little annoyed. And then Yeshua used it as an opportunity to do a miracle for them, but also teach them a lesson. But I don't think they fully got it. I think this is what sets up the next miracle. Okay? And it's training in the disciples to understand the heart of the Father. Listen to what he says. Again, Matthew 14 from verse 22. It says, immediately. So after they picked up the baskets, they get ready, they're going to leave. Immediately he had the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side. So he sends them on in a boat. He's in a place and he's going to watch what happens. While he sent the crowds away, after he had sent the crowds away, he went up to the hills by himself to pray. Night came on and he was there alone. But by this time the boat was several miles from shore, battling a rough sea and a headwind. Around 4 o'clock in the morning, he came toward them walking on the lake. Now, if you look at the other Gospels, it actually says he came toward him walking on the lake and he was about to pass on by. So now we're going to stop and we're going to go, what is this rabbi doing? How is he teaching his disciples? What is the lesson so far? Hi guys, get in a boat. I'm going to say bye-bye to all my friends. They off go on their way and I'm going to leave you to paddle against waves for hours and hours and hours. And it's at night time. And these are seafaring guys. These guys understand the Sea of Galilee. Okay?
And the dangers with it.
Right. It sounds a little bit odd for us because when we associate the ocean, we think of these big waves, right? And when you kind of get to Israel, you know, you kind of sit there at the Sea of Galilee and you see this lake and it's just these little waves that sort of lap up on the shore and you think, oh, the big waves, right? How does that work? There's a lovely man by the name of Daniel Cartmel, okay? And he does worship cruises on the Sea of Galilee.
I must just brag. We've been on it. Ah, what an experience.
Something we all have to do.
Ah, what an experience.
To worship on the Sea of Galilee is something special. If you get an opportunity, that's the guy you go and see.
Oh, yes.
Now, anyway, he was sitting over there. Now, this man, Daniel, is trained as a seafarer. He's part of his life story is he worked as a sea captain out for the port of Haifa, and he wanted to move closer to his family. So, he, you know, body of water, he understands the ocean. And he says, you know, you get there and you really don't understand the wind and the waves that came up to get waves. And we're like, he says, how does that happen? So he says, what happens is there's like this cold air from Mount Hermon that comes funneling through this rift valley and the hot air from the Galilee, and it starts whipping up this wind. And he says, sometimes the Sea of Galilee gets 6 to 7 foot waves.
Yeah.
Right? These are big waves. Yeah. That are busy knocking them about.
That's 2 meters.
In these little boats. And now you have all these guys squished in there, and remember, Yeshua is standing there watching you. At this point, are we thinking, what's going on? It's just going to go for a casual walk. I'll meet you on the other side. See you boys later. Yeah. What was the lesson? Have you ever been so desperate that you working in your own strength, just trying to take one step, one row at a time. And when hope comes, it just passes you by.
Yeah. Because you're too busy fighting your own battle.
You cry out, you panic, you're nervous, but you just can't seem to get it. It's exactly what they were doing to the crowds. When they saw Yeshua coming by, they had been struggling, they had been fighting their own fight, they have been really trying to get healing, trying to get answers, trying to get to understand this God and where he was, and they had no compassion. You want to understand what those 5,000 feel like? You're going to row all night and you're not going to get anywhere. You need to understand the lesson. that moment of helplessness, that moment of panic, there you start to look at what's more important. Are you going to look at them with compassion again? You remember this moment now. Okay? So, but he starts walking along the water. It says around, verse 25, around 4 o'clock in the morning, he came toward them walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. It's a ghost. Now, I think they're a little bit superstitious. Okay? A little bit panicked. You don't expect your rabbi to come walking along along the boat when the storms are raging. So it's in sort of Hebraic thought, they looked at these large bodies of waters, particularly with the Canaanite ideas, of which we're going to get into in a minute, that they believed that, there was some supernatural forces at play. Okay? So they panicked. They said and screamed with fear, but at once Yeshua spoke to them. Courage, he said. It is I, stop being afraid. Then Peter called to him, Lord, if it is really you, tell me to come to you on the water. Now, this never made sense to me before I understood this dynamic. You've swam how many times in your life? As you say, a fair few?
Yeah, quite a few.
Right. So you understand that when you go into the water,
You go
and blah, blah, blah.
into the water.
Yes, yeah, you start to sink. And now all of a sudden, Peter, this fisherman,
That
Well,
knows water very well.
decides that, oh, if it's you, Lord, then I can walk on water. What was he thinking? We spoke previously about the rabbi discipleship reality, right? If your rabbi calls you to say, come and walk after me, lech acharai,
You walk.
it's his belief and his understanding that you will become like him in every aspect. Peter gets this in a way that I think we scarcely understand. Instead of going, wow, my rabbi can walk on water, this is an amazing, 5 seconds ago I thought it was a ghost, now he's standing over there going, if you can walk on water, I can do it too.
I can do it too.
Right? So he says, come. He said, so Peter got up out the boat and walked on the water towards Yeshua. But when he saw the wind, some will say wind and the waves, he became afraid. He does something that we all do here. Father will call you to do the miraculous work. The Spirit will say, listen, come, do this, go and talk to that person, go do this, go and whatever the call is.
And we start.
And then we start to think about all the other things that could go wrong or should go or are going to go wrong, and we take our eyes off.
And we fold.
We lost sight of the rabbi. We lost sight of Yeshua. We lost sight of the Messiah. And because of that, he became afraid. And as he began to sink, he yelled, Lord, save me. Yeshua immediately stretched out his hand. Notice, he cried out. Compassion. Stretched out his hand and took hold of him and said to him, such little faith, such little trust, why did you doubt? Now, a lot of the times we think, well, who was he doubting? Was he doubting Yeshua? No, it couldn't be, because he's still standing there. He said, if it's you, Lord, call me. So the doubt laid with himself. He had a moment of doubt, and he went. I was doing it. I was becoming like Christ. And then maybe the worries of the world, or the 50 other answered questions you don't have, or one thing leads to the next, and all of a sudden we take our eyes off what we're supposed to be, and we start to sink. But in a moment, we cry out, and Yeshua is there to grab us and pull us up. Right? The currency, the compassion, the love for God. Don't doubt your call. It's his job to empower you, to do it through you, even in your imperfections. As they went up into the boat, the wind ceased, and the men in the boat fell down before him and exclaimed, you really are the Son of God. In that moment, when he climbs into the boat, the wind stops because the lesson's done.
Yep. That was what it was all about.
Right. I think they have a better understanding of compassion. They have a better understanding of the struggle. Sometimes we need to remember, you have the answer. right? People out there are hopeless. They're struggling. They don't know who to turn to. They don't know what questions to ask. And we were in that position many, many years ago. But sometimes we get so comfortable walking with Yeshua, we forget what it's like to not have it.
What it means to have to walk on water.
What it means
Yeah.
to follow someone, hoping that they're going to give you. Well, let me say this: to follow someone so that they can give you hope. Maybe this man will pray to God and bring me healing. Maybe this is the answer that I've been looking for. And instead of running around trying to fill that big empty void that you have inside you, or trying to have all the answers, we realized that the only way to stop the emptiness is to accept Yeshua, but also at the same time know that we can go to him with anything and everything that we're struggling with. We're not supposed to have all the answers. We're supposed to have him and trust that he has all the answers. Right? So a lesson for us and a lesson for them.
May I add something to
Please
this?
do.
There's a scripture where God says to the Israelites, do you remember what I did to the Egyptians while I carried you on eagle's wings? And what I just think, like this part of the scripture, they were there looking at frogs everywhere, looking at hail coming down. All these things were happening that was terrifying. But Father says, I was carrying you on eagle's wings. And I think so often we look at what's happening and Father looks at what he's doing. And we miss that.
Yes.
We really miss that.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much.
Oh, good.